lost you for a second. All right, everybody, welcome to the first ever Two Nicks in a Pod podcast. This is kind of off the cuff. We don't really have a lot planned, but my name is Nick Newenfeld. This is my brother Nick, Nick West.
Yep.
So basically, this is going to be a podcast about uh, anything and everything philosophy. We're going to throw a lot of comedy in there, probably. Anything under the sun, anything that encapsulates the human experience.
Definitely.
So,
Without further ado, Nick, why don't you go ahead and just give us an introduction of who you are and your background and stuff and some of the things that you're interested in.
I sure will, man. My name is Nick Newenfeld. I grew up in Saginaw, Michigan my entire life, and I still live in Saginaw, Michigan. I've been going to school and out of school, working odd jobs, trying to figure out where my place in this wild, wacky world actually is. And I feel like this podcast is a good way to express myself and just kind of get out how I feel about the world and where I see myself going. I think it's just going to be good for people if this ever catches on. People can kind of maybe use this as like a map to navigate their own life.
Right on, man. Good to know. I'm Nick West. I was
They can learn from my mistakes.
right, dude, for sure. Dude, we can all learn from each other's mistakes, man.
Yeah,
Dude, history repeats itself, man. That's why you got to learn from mistakes, dude. My name is Nick West. I born in Saginaw, Michigan. Moved to Phoenix when I was 13. Went to high school there. Moved back to Michigan. Went to college for a little bit. Moved out to Seattle actually. Lived in the Tacoma area for 3 years, and then just moved back to Michigan to finish my degree, studying economics with a minor in philosophy. And Nick and I have a lot in common, and we figured what else to do but make a podcast called the Two Nicks in a Pod. So here we are, dude. Here we are.
It was funny because we just started working at the same place, and originally I said, "Hey Nick, we should do a podcast together," and I was kind of joking about it, and then eventually it kind of just caught on to the point where we just decided to get our laptops out and record, and
Right.
obviously my 0.9 megapixel camera isn't really doing the best job in the world, but
Dude, you're crystal clear, man. You're crystal clear.
I'm doing good. We're doing good. But no,
Yeah, man.
eventually it kind of just caught on, and we're here right now, so this is pretty cool. I'm pretty excited right now.
Dude, me too, man. I'm stoked for what we got planned. So what did you want to start talking about today, man? Like what did you want to kick this off with?
Nick, tell me right now, man. How do we change the world? How do we fix the world? How it is right now?
How do we fix the world, man?
That
isn't the $1 trillion question.
Put it in layman's terms. Don't go too deep into anything, but like, what would you tomorrow if you woke up tomorrow and you could change one thing about the world to make it a better place? What would you change?
I feel like, honestly, teaching philosophy in schools regardless of the flaws in our education system, but just something very, very simple that could change the world, maybe not overnight, but that would have resounding impacts on the future, would be teaching philosophy from an early age. I feel like if we start teaching children logic, how to think clearly, the entire fake news industry wouldn't even exist. If people knew about, fact checking and things like that, and not only that, but ethics and morality and, things of that nature, I feel like it would greatly benefit society. If the next generation's moving forward, we're taught those things from a young age, I feel like that would really benefit a lot of people. I don't know, man. What about you? What do you think?
I think if I could change the world, I would make regulations on teachers more strict, I guess, in a weird way. I think we should pay them more. I think we should put the best people in our society in those schools, and we should work on fixing public schools. And we should actually make them a place where we should. I don't know if the key is to give them more funding, because I don't know if that always works, because then more funding can often lead to some bad roads. But I think
corruption and things of that nature.
Right, and I think they have more funding, and then who's to say how that's going to be used? You know what I mean?
Right.
Who's to say it's going to be used in a good way?
Right.
I think it starts at the fundamental level when you're a young person in this world. And I think trying to foster an environment for everybody where everyone's got, no one's ever going to have an even playing field all throughout the thing. I think we can level it up to the point where everybody has a point where they can start, and they're not a million steps behind somebody else.
Right. Life would be great if it was like the game Monopoly, where everyone starts with the same amount of money, and then it's just based on how you play the game, right? but that's not how the world is, man. And I do agree, though. I think that I mean, the best way to change the world is to change the children, right? Because they're the ones who inherit the world. We give it to them essentially. I mean, we don't really give it to them, but they're the ones who will eventually, 30 years from now, will be in office. Will be running the country, and yeah, the best way to change the world is to change their education for sure.
I
You
agree.
control their education, you control the future of the world.
Yeah. So what is the quote? Is like a society works best when men plant trees that they know they'll never take shelter from the shade under, or whatever, something like that. How
Right.
it's like
Yeah, I
that
think I've
kind of
heard
thing.
that.
It's like you're gonna
Right.
plant a tree today, and you know you're never gonna be able to get shade from it, but it's like someday
Right.
someone will, and I feel like that's not what we're doing in today's society.
No, definitely not. No, man, we rape the earth, dude,
Yeah,
for sure.
we torch it, man.
Rainforests, and there are indigenous people living in South America who essentially get kicked out of their homes that they've had, that they've only known this rainforest, and then a petroleum company comes along and says, hey, little did you guys know, you're living on some oil that we kind of need later.
We're gonna
Sorry
have
about your luck, but
if
yeah,
you
you
guys
got to
should move.
move. Like, you got to get out of the way. We're gonna chop all this shit down. Actually, we need these trees. Like, we need the rubber. Like, yeah, later.
Later,
This stuff
later.
is used as medicine in North America. Like, yeah, sorry.
Yes, exactly. It only provides the oxygen that we breathe.
Right.
Not
Dude,
like this.
dude, did you know this? I saw this on Reddit the other day. 70% of the Earth's oxygen comes from the oceans.
I
Did you
did
know
know that
that?
actually, dude. I
I
think
never knew that,
is it the
dude.
ventilation, the steam vents, that where it comes from,
I
or not?
don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I didn't really, honestly, I just kind of read the title and was like, oh, wow, that's fascinating. I didn't really, like, I mean, look at me. I didn't really read it, but I
The
thought,
title's
like,
all you need to know.
man, that is that is insane. Like, I never knew that, because you're always taught, at least in the United States or where I went to school, you were always taught, they perpetuated this idea that, trees give all of the oxygen through photosynthesis. And it's just like, oh, I didn't actually know that all of our fucking air comes from the ocean. All the oxygen comes from the ocean. That's, and then we just rape the ocean, dude. Like, hey, have some plastic. Who cares that we breathe the air that you create? Like, yeah.
And then all the pollutants just get in the ocean, and all these sea creatures are basically just like eating plastic, mistaking it for food sources.
Right, dude. You see like the pictures of the turtles with their heads in like the six packs of the beer where like they can't get out, or the fish stuck in them, or whatever, or the oil spills that we've had, just
You just described it. I was visualizing, man. That the
yeah,
turtle in the six pack of
the
the
turtle
pop,
six
dude.
pack.
That is the best example. But I don't know. I think that's another problem, man, because it's just us not prepping future generations to have a good
Right.
society. We're giving them like we're putting ourselves in fiscal debt, but we're also putting them in environmental debt. Is another way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Definitely, dude. I mean, the impacts that we've had on the earth over the last 100 years, it's starting to come to fruition. Al Gore was right, and it's finally like, hey, the things that we're doing can have an impact on this giant rock that we live on. We can, however small that we are, 7 billion of us doing something can hurt the earth.
Right.
So I mean, I think we need to start, that's cool. That's the cool thing though with like Tesla, man. Like, cars that have like almost no pollution. Granted, creating the car, the things that are, used to build the actual car, those have those create pollution, just by the very nature, metal, you have to create metal somehow. Um, but it's a step in the right direction, like, will we ever be able to have a society function without any sort of pollution? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe 100 years from now when science is, much more advanced than it is now. But I mean, I don't know, man. I think there's always going to be some kind of pollution. But I mean, I don't know. I think right now the conversation is really just kind of starting. Seriously, that is, because we realize the impacts that we've had, for the last however many years. I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely. It's one of those things where like I think like you wake up every day and you do the same thing and you don't realize over time you're having a bigger impact. It's just like a day by day thing where like it's like procrastinating. You put it off one day. What's one more day? And then one day
Right,
leads to another day, and that day leads into a month, and then that month leads into a year. And I
right,
know I'm bad about that in my personal life. So like I can't. It's one of those things where I've heard like the quote like "Don't judge the world for being dirty when your room's dirty." You know what I mean?
right,
So it's
right.
like I know I can improve myself too. You know what I mean? I don't think it's like I see like in the micro how the macro world is all messed up. because
Right.
the world's composed of individual micros that make up the macro, and there's a lot of people that are messed up in the micro, and that's just going to have profound effects. And it's
On the
going to go from
macro.
there. Right.
Definitely, man. And you know, it's like it's one of those things. It's like, how do you fix it? You know, like who
Right.
has the answers? You know, not one person's gonna have the answer. You know, it's gonna take a collective effort of a ton of individuals coming together and actually trying to solve the problem. And I don't know. I mean, I don't really think that that exists right now. I mean, I may just be uneducated on it, but if you know, if that does exist, I actually should do some research on that. It's
Right.
noted. Noted.
Right. Like I think it does exist, but I think it's always going to be a generational thing where past generations like it was almost like when our parents and their parents grew up. Like I feel like society was more based on the individual, and I think as we move forward, we're going to
Right.
realize that's not very sustainable. So
Right.
limiting
Definitely.
groups is the way to go.
Definitely. I mean, humans are social creatures, right? Like no one person can live on their own. Like Milton Friedman's story about the pencil. Like no one person can create a pencil, you know. It's a
I love that
collective
story.
effort of so many people coming together. You know, you have the people who make the rubber eraser, you have the people who make the graphite lead to write with, you have the people who make, you know, they make the wood, then the metal tip that holds the eraser. Like so many different industries come together, you know, the ink that writes on the pencil, you know, number two Ticonderoga, you know, like I
Yes.
mean, we're I mean, and at the end of the day though, that collective also is formed by people pursuing their self-interest in a way, right? So like all those people making the pencil, they're not doing it because they just want to make pencils. You know, they're doing it so that they can make money to in turn trade for goods. And it's, I don't know, man, it's a really complex and interesting idea of whether or not we should view ourselves as a collective or as individuals, as you know, that just happen to be a part of a collective. You know, it's like one of those questions that almost can't be answered, you know, because I mean at the end of the day, people are going to do what they want to do, you know.
Right. Right.
I mean, but I guess if you're in a group and you have some sort of shared responsibility, that can change the impact on your decisions. But
It's just weird when you look at like smaller groups of people. Like if me and you and like two other people woke up tomorrow on an island, we wouldn't live like in a capitalist society per se. We would have like
we
capitalistic
would,
schemes.
right,
But
but
we,
we would
we
have to live together to survive.
right, and it's amazing how that when that branches out, like at what point does it become like, oh, this is not sustainable anymore. We all have to do our own tasks. You know what I mean? That kind of
Right,
it's weird. Like I'm not going to trade you a coconut for a banana. I mean, we would. That's what I mean. But like in like a civilized society,
right,
you use money instead.
right, exactly. And I mean, you know, we needed each other for protection because humans are fragile. Like any animal can kick our ass, dude. Like a
Yes,
deer,
dude.
dude. Like you look at a deer and you're just like, man, that's not very threatening. Like people hunt that for fun. If you didn't have a gun and a buck with, you know, a 10, you know, a 10-piece buck was just charging at you, like how are you gonna stop that?
Dude,
Like
there's
that
no
thing. I saw a video today of, I saw it on Reddit actually, of all places. That's like all I spend my time on is Reddit, of
right.
a ram attacking a buck, and the buck like butted heads with the ram and drove the ram back and was chasing this thing, dude. And I was like, wow, I had no clue, dude. Like, because rams are known for ramming. They're
Right,
fucking
dude.
rams, dude.
That's all they, their name is
And like
literally
you
it's like an
think of it
oxymoron or whatever it's called.
literally, dude, and you think of a deer and you're just like, yeah, they eat apples and like Bambi, like, you know, Bambi's mom dies, like whatever.
Right.
Like, but dude, even a deer could fuck up a person. Like
Exactly.
imagine their hooves, man, like kicking the shit out of you. Like what are you, you know? So back in the day, we had to live together
Right.
because were we, you know, if a bear were to come into a group of four people, that bear is fucking up all four people.
Exactly.
You know, you can have, you know, shove a spear in a bear. That bear
Right.
is gonna fucking hit you with one swipe of its paw, and
Dude.
you're knocked out. And then it's
Right.
gonna eat your face, and then
Right.
you're all dead. But you know, if a bear comes up on 20 people, it's fucked.
And they all have spears and they're in a circle. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's
Right.
no way it's gonna it might kill one two it might kill a few of them or a sizable portion, but it's not gonna kill all of them.
Right. Dude, right, man. And so, but I mean, I think, you know, like you said, like we're to the point now where we don't live that way anymore, you know? Like we as a society might, like Americans, for example, had to protect themselves from the Japanese during Pearl Harbor, right? So like but at that point we're just protecting ourselves from other people, you know? And
Right.
so it comes down to a people versus people sort of thing, not necessarily needing to survive against nature like it was thousands of years ago, but
And it's almost like that tribal mindset breeds violence because
definitely.
you always want to have your tribe be against somebody else's tribe because you want to be the dominant tribe. It's weird.
Look at athletics, man. Look at sports teams.
Exactly. That's a great example.
I mean, you could take guy A from Boston wearing a Kyrie Irving Celtics jersey, and you could take guy B from LA wearing a Kobe Bryant Lakers jersey, and I guarantee you initially they don't get along. They could, I mean, if they don't have those shirts on, they might be best friends, but they would never know because they see the Celtics jersey, and the LA fan is like, dude, fuck the Celtics. And then the Boston fan sees the Lakers jersey, he's like, dude, fuck the Lakers. And then, they just start fighting, and it's just like, man, what are you guys fighting for? You guys could be best friends. You don't even know each other.
Exactly.
Like Nick, if you were an Ohio State fan, like I probably wouldn't like you.
You
You
probably
know,
would, man. I was like an
but dude,
Ohio
you have
State
someone
shirt
to
under
talk
this, man, under my sweater, man, just
Yeah,
voicing out right now. Probably just close this podcast out. Like, all right, I can't really talk to you anymore.
like the first time I met you, if you would have been wearing an Ohio State jersey, I'd have been like, "Fuck this guy! Like,
Dude,
who
fuck.
is he?
Who
He
is?
lives in Michigan. He's got an Ohio State jersey on. Like, the
Does,
fuck out of here, buddy!"
does he know where he lives? Like, do I have to
Right?
like give him directions to the border of like Ohio
This
and
ain't
Michigan?
this
Like,
ain't
dude,
Columbus, my guy.
get him out of here, man. This ain't Columbus, my guy.
Oh man, no, but dude, like,
But no, like
I
what we were talking about, like
yeah,
I think there's a quote by Ram Dass where it's like, sometimes it's not selfish to help yourself because sometimes to help yourself means that you're gonna be able to help others later. So we have to work on ourselves first to be able to
right.
get to the point where we can help other people.
And I think again, going back to the points that we made earlier, that starts from a very young age, right?
Yes.
Um, I think that philosophy provides the tools that individuals need to just better themselves, better their lives, be able to think critically about the decisions that they make and the impacts that those decisions are going to have on their lives, to be able to logically deconstruct or reconstruct an argument. I think it all comes down to just training the next generation of young minds to be able to think critically about the things that they see every day. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want this country to turn into idiocracy. Have you ever seen that movie?
I've seen that movie.
Dude, great
Is
movie.
That's where everyone
It's
reverts to tribalism, right? Is that kind of what it is, or maybe I
it's
haven't seen it.
dude, it's like they like essentially start like giving plants Gatorade. They like it's what plants love. It has electrolytes. Like, oh dude, yeah, you should look it up, man. It's a great movie. It's a
Oh,
great like people don't know how to do anything. They don't know how to do anything, man.
so
Like
so it's like
everyone is just
they just woke up
every
and they were stupid.
dude, it's essentially like a long progression of like people just getting dumber and dumber because they don't have to think critically about anything because anything that they want to do or know is so readily available that the only thing that they ever have to do is know how to type in Google. And even now you don't even have to type in Google. You just pull up the Google app and type whatever it is you want to search on your phone. Every
Yeah.
literally anything that you could ever want to know is at the tip of your fingertips. Obviously, aside from questions that are unanswerable, like things that we haven't figured out yet. But I mean, all of human knowledge essentially is on your phone. It's in the internet, dude. Like, and essentially, it's just talking about this point of like eventually we're gonna have a society full of dumbasses who don't know how to think. And if we can train the next generations on just how to think, because it's something that we don't talk about a lot, how to think. We ask questions and we talk about stuff, but we don't ever really teach anyone how to think. And I think that that's something that philosophy would just greatly benefit society.
It would. Like, I think it's important to not to tell somebody what conclusion to come to, but tell them how to come to a conclusion in a weird way. Like,
Right.
use all
Right.
the evidence that you have, come to a conclusion. Not tell somebody this is the only answer because maybe that worked 100 years ago or 20 years ago, but that's not going to work tomorrow.
Right.
And
Definitely.
I think what we talked about like earlier, like back when we were like tribal people, like basically if you weren't working to help the group, you probably got killed off because a human by himself is going to be vulnerable.
Right. Or
And now,
you're shunned from the tribe is the same thing as killing you off. Essentially.
right, and if
You know?
your genes are more predicated to being selfish, you were killed off because you weren't going to help the group. Like you're either going to be shunned away or you're idiotic. Like, how much of an idiot you were is probably going to get you killed.
Or you had to adapt, right? And
Or
you
you,
had
or,
to learn how to become a part of a group and then learn how
yes,
to like right.
yes, or because like maybe you
Definitely.
had to pretend, maybe you had to like look at other people and look at what was working at the time, and you adapted
Right.
your own behavior to be like them. But
Right.
maybe And then maybe now that we live in such a safe society, it's not perfect, obviously. It's got a lot of problems. But I'm saying like now that most people don't have to worry about surviving like they did back then.
Right.
Maybe they don't see the reason to even act like that. You know.
Right. That makes sense.
In a weird way, and that kind of carries forward to today with like not realizing that you should know information and not just rely on your phone all the time.
Right, man. Like, I mean, I remember, like, I mean, and this is only 15 years ago, 10 years ago, but like elementary school or like middle school, like we had computers then and we had Google, but there were times where you had to like go to the library and like get a fucking book and like read a book and like try to like find information out of an actual book.
Yes.
And now, dude, it's like I go to college, dude. My textbook is on my laptop. Like I don't even ever look at I don't even have a textbook. I don't even have textbooks, man.
Right.
I don't even have them. Everything, everything is digitized and it's amazing. But in the same token, man, like finding research, and knowing how to find what it was that you were looking for was a skill, right? And that it's just another way of how technology has allowed us to just dumb ourselves down, right? It's just another thing that we don't have to think about how to do, how to learn something. We just tell Google what it is we want to learn and it's right there,
Right. Right. Like you don't have to know something to actually learn more about it, like in depth. You can just learn the in depth part without even realizing you can learn the other stuff. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, you don't even have to know. Like you don't have to be knowledgeable. You just have to. You have to be able to look at your phone and get a bunch of pixels light up in a certain fashion that tells you exactly what you need to know.
Right, man.
Weird.
Definitely.
Weird.
Definitely. Yeah,
But
man.
I think you can make the argument that we're like already partly a cyborg because like we're so attached to our phones. And where does that go from here?
Dude, I didn't know the screen time feature on the iPhone. Hey, do you know about this? Do you have
I've heard about it a little bit.
I don't you have Android, right?
I have Android. I have Android.
It might have it too, I'm not sure. But it will tell you on the phone in the settings how much screen time you've had, right? So how often you're sitting there looking at your screen. Dude, I average like 4 hours a day. Oh, that blew me away, man. Because not only am I on my phone for 4 hours a day, but my ass is sitting playing video games for 8. So, you know, 12 half of my day, I'm looking at a screen, man.
Right.
And it's just it blew me away. Granted, sometimes on my phone I play chess and I'm reading, I'm on Reddit or whatever, sometimes reading my emails or whatever. But man, 4 hours a day where I'm staring at this screen and I'm just, zoning into it, it's crazy, man. And you don't realize it, you don't. Because I would have guessed maybe, hour, you know, but
Hour.
4 hours a day, man. It was like, wow. So I've been trying to cut down on my screen time, man. I've been trying to detach from the matrix. It's hard though, man. It's really hard.
Once the matrix is built, it's so hard to like not
It's,
utilize it.
it
It's
is,
always
man.
there. It's always just sitting there. You just go
Right.
go up to it and touch it. You can feel it. Not literally, obviously, but like it's like information. You almost like just reach out and grab, and it's weird.
Right, man. The amount of information that's just readily available it's a good thing, but it has its downsides, like we were saying, with like critical thinking skills and stuff of that nature. Like I honestly wonder if critical thinking will become a degree. You get your degree in critical thinking, 10 years from now. I mean, granted, that might just be like a philosophy, like a logic degree. It might be what it is, but like, I mean, that's gonna be a rare skill, in a
It's gonna be
while.
a very rare skill. Like
You know,
I feel like it's already happening right now, where like you talk to some people and it's just everything you talk about is on the surface, and they're not thinking about anything that's really deep. And when they do talk about deep things, it's only for a brief period of time. Like it's
they
already
get
happening.
uncomfortable and
They get
right.
uncomfortable and they don't want to talk about it anymore, and it's fine. Like I guess not everybody's like adept to want to do that stuff, and if they don't enjoy it, they shouldn't do it. But
Right. Well, and not only that, but like how like maybe not you, but like there are times where I'll like meet someone and they'll start telling me their life story like right away,
yeah,
you know.
dude, it's like
And it's funny because like, I'm all for conversations like that, but it's like you kind of initially are like, man, it's kind of weird. I don't even know you. Like,
yeah, yeah.
why do I need to know about your kids? Like, I don't even know about you. Like, why don't you tell me about you? Like, I don't know if that's where you're going with it or not, but that's, what it makes me think of.
I sort of was. That's kind of where I was headed towards, man. I think it's just like there's a lot of. I mean, like if you know you're gonna be friends with somebody, obviously later down the line you want to know about them. But like
Right.
at the beginning, if it's just gonna be like menial, trivial stuff, why do you have to go in deep, like in depth of
Right.
Tell me about what colored birthday candles your son had at his birthday party.
Right, dude. Like I've known you for a week. Like we've worked together for a week. Like if your son's favorite food is popcorn and you can't stop him like from eating ice cream for dinner, like why do I like I don't really care, you know? Like and I'm a pretty caring person, but like that's like at the back, like that's like way down the list like of
Yeah,
things that I care about. I
yeah.
barely even care about myself, man. Like come on, dude. Like shit.
I haven't had birthday candles in what 10 years, and like nowadays, dude, come on, it's such an afterthought for me, man.
Right, dude. Man.
But what were we talking about, man? Like, I guess like I want to preface this by saying that like I'm 23 years old, so what do I know about anything? I mean, I think I know
Right.
a decent amount about the world. I'm not saying like so if I say anything that like I don't want to have to say like if I offend anybody, I don't mean to. But I'm saying like I might offend people with what I say, and it's I'm not trying to. It's not like a personal attack, but like I'm a big correspondent of natural selection. I think it's pretty
Right.
well. But like when you look at the chart, like at what point does the man become the cyborg? You know what I mean? You ever think about that? Like, we could be the last generation where we don't have like, we're already putting like, stuff in our hearts to make them beat at a certain rhythm. So where does it stop at?
Right, man. Like, I mean, do you mean like what about like genetic modification?
Like
Like
CRISPR,
gene altering? Yeah, well, have you heard of like I mean, in China, dude, there was this guy who was like altering embryos, like the DNA of the fetus, like what the child was going to be. Like you can change eye color, like you can manufacture your baby now. And so like what like I mean, granted, you're manufacturing human DNA. You're not manufacturing a computer chip. But at the end of the day, like, what is the difference? You're changing, what's the difference between changing the code, in a web application and changing the code in, a human body,
right?
you know? I don't know, man. Like, it's cool because with the advancement of medicine and technology, we people who should be dead can live,
Right.
this guy's arteries are clogged to shit because he eats McDonald's every day, you know but at
Talking for
least we
yourself.
can put a yeah, but at least we can put a pacemaker in his heart, and let him give him another 10 or 15 years.
Right, right.
um no, man, but a, a different nature of that conversation. Think about kids nowadays, man. Like, so I don't know about you, but like when I was a kid, every weekend I would go to my grandparents' house, right?
Right,
And all I would do is play outside with my friends in the neighborhood. All
right.
right. I had three friends, Casey, Max, and Jake. And all we would do is basketball, football. We'd go golfing, right? Like we played this game like tennis ball. It's what we called it. Where we played baseball, but with like tennis rackets and tennis balls. So we could just like, it was like home run derby, basically. We just smacked the shit out of the tennis ball. And, but I had that experience. And I feel like we might be one of the last generations to have that experience.
Right.
Because by the time I turned 14 or 15, you know, that that was out the window. That was,
100%.
that wasn't fun anymore. I am playing video games, and granted, I played video games before then, but playing outside it was fun, man. Like, that crisp, fresh air, and you feel human, man. Like, nice spring day, and it's 70 degrees outside, and you're in shorts and a t-shirt playing basketball in the driveway. Like, man, that was, back then that was just like a mate. Like that was the shit, dude.
That
Like,
was amazing, dude.
you like got to school on Monday, and you're like, damn, that was fun. I can't wait, for Friday night or Saturday morning to get up and do it again. Like,
Right, man.
and
I used to live
and
on weekends.
and now, man, like you look and like at least in my family, this is my own subjective experience, but my cousins, man, my little cousins, they granted they're just like me, how I am now, because I sit in front of a monitor or I sit in front of a computer all day, but they they don't go outside. They sit on their phones or their tablets or their computers or video games, like, and it's like you said, the cyborg, man, like where it's almost like children now are just being conditioned to being in front of a screen all day. And as the older generation, the generation before them, you know I mean, we almost help perpetrate that problem, because children only learn from their environment, for
Right.
the most part. So when a kid looks and sees their mom sitting on the couch watching TV on Facebook at the same time on her phone, the kid's probably gonna go and sit in front of, whatever TV show they watch nowadays. I don't even know. I wanted to say iCarly, but I don't think that has been on air for like 10 years, man. I don't
That
know.
might have ended a while ago, but they might
But
have replays of it. Who knows?
they're sitting there watching, Sesame. Well, not Sesame Street. Dude, I'm so out of the loop, man. God, I'm only 24, but I feel so old. I can't even say what TV show they watch, man.
I'm thinking like Blue's Clues, man, but that hasn't been on since I was 6.
Dude, such a good show, man.
Dude,
Dude, that
I
guy
had
went to
Steve's
jail.
chair and everything.
Didn't he go to jail for like cocaine or some shit?
Dude,
Some
I heard that.
shit? Was
I
he
think
like a pedophile or something, man? Like, I don't know, dude. Do you
yeah,
know?
I don't know, to be honest. I heard so much conflicting stuff about it. I heard, well, in the show, I think they said he was going to college, but I don't buy that.
No, I
Like,
think that
dude,
fucker got arrested for drugs.
I think there was some dark shit going on.
I think Steve was dipping his nose in booger sugar, dude. I think he was getting a little too wild with that dog, man. I think him and Blue were having a little bit too much fun.
Yeah, I think they were too. I think they had to like separate. Like, all right, Steve, you're gonna get your own spin-off maybe at some point, probably not, but we're gonna keep Blue because Blue's the centerpiece.
Steve, you're gonna be in this next week's episode of Miami Vice.
You're gonna be in Narcos.
But dude, like I feel like this next generation is gonna really lose out on that experience of playing outside.
Right.
And I feel like there's so much more that you can learn from being in, like, maybe not literally more that you can learn, but there's so much more to the human experience than a screen and pixels and, a computer. Like, I don't know, man. Those experiences that I had, like I wouldn't trade that, for more video game time. Like that was amazing. If I could go back and do that again, yes, man. Like what do I miss more? Sitting at a computer playing World of Warcraft when I was in high school, or when I was 10 years old hooping, say Kobe, like
Kobe, and
that's
then
yeah.
you lay it in, and dude, it's just like, I
Dude,
don't
we
know,
used
man.
to play football in the snow, man. It would be like 15 degrees outside and it'd be snowing and be out there playing football. Like that doesn't happen anymore, dude. When was the last time you even saw a kid outside shoveling, man?
Dude, like they just stay inside all day. Like, I'm not saying I'm not like I'm sort of like guilty of doing that too, but it's like
Yeah.
it's almost like that stuff is like just bleeding down to the new generations, and they're taking
Exactly,
it
man.
to a new place that it's never been before.
And at the end of the day, man, like, is that our fault? Because I kind of feel like I don't feel responsible. I don't have any kids,
Right.
but I do have kids in my family who do look up to me, and do I help perpetrate that? But I like at the same time, like I'm 24. I don't want to go outside and play basketball because it's 0 degrees out. It's too fucking cold.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
when I was a kid, I didn't give a shit. Let's go hoop. I'm bored. I don't want to sit there and play PS2. Now kids are like, I want to play Fortnite. I'm not going outside. It's 0. But it's like you're a kid. Like you're 10. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Like when I was 10, like I didn't care how cold it was. It all felt the same to me. Cold
right,
felt cold, and warm felt warm.
right.
It didn't matter what it was, and now I noticed an actual difference. But I just think that, like, there were times when I was a kid, man, when I was outside, and everything just felt so natural, and you felt so free. You felt like this is what it's supposed to be like to be a human. Like, I
Definitely,
remember being
dude.
up north and like waking up in the morning, and like it was just like a blissful scene, like being by the water and stuff, and like just the colors of the sun and whatnot. And like I just feel like going forward, that's just gonna be like it's gonna be less important to the next generations.
Definitely, man. Like I feel like kids nowadays are just gonna be like, I can see a sunrise on YouTube.
Right.
I could put my VR goggles on and be in the Oculus and watch the sunset. Like why do I have
Right.
to go outside to do it? I can just sit here and do it. And like I don't know, man. I just feel like that. I feel like we're partly responsible, but at the same time, like, we don't. I don't have kids, and I feel like if I did have kids, then I would want to raise them differently. But that would involve changing myself. But I feel like that's something, that I would be willing to do. I don't know about you, but like, I don't know. I think that we need to, as a society, recognize what is going to end up happening to this next generation because they're gonna, what's the Disney movie or the kids movie?
Wally.
Wally, dude.
Wally.
Yes.
I was gonna bring that up.
Yes, man.
Wally. Yes.
Wally. Wally. Yeah, dude.
Wally.
Yeah, dude.
The last garbage collector on Earth, man, and
Yeah, dude.
humanity just trashed Earth. And I feel like if any Disney movie comes true, it's gonna be Wally. I feel like I can see it happening.
Definitely.
In the next thousands of years. I feel like we get more accustomed to sitting in chairs. We want all of this content just streamed right to our face all the time, and that's I mean, it's weird.
I have a question. Is it bad of me for recognizing how bad that movie is and like the people in that movie, how bad they are, but at the same time thinking, damn, that would be fucking awesome. Like, dude, I could sit here and never have to move and just wheel myself around. Like, dude, like, man, that would be dope. Like my big 32-ounce big gulp just chilling with Pepsi in it. Like, just, the straw comes right to my mouth. Like, dude, like, man,
You can just like it's like a little hover around. You can just go around all day. There's like
right, dude.
automated Taco Bell. You just roll up to it, and the
Dude, you're
robots will
speaking
give
my
you your meds.
language, dude.
Like,
You're
dude,
speaking
I
my language.
like we're joking about it, but I think it's actually could be true.
Right, dude. No, like, seriously though, like I think it sounds awesome. Like I recognize how bad it is and I don't want that, but at the same time I'm like, damn, that's kind of dope. And it like makes you wonder like cuz there are a lot of people who may not share the same view as I do. Then recognizing how bad it is or they just don't think it's bad and they think that that's dope. And there are people that now live like that, granted not by choice, There are people who can't walk who have to live in those. But it's like, man, like are we going to be in a position one day as a society where we're too obese because we're not active enough because we sit in a cubicle all day and drink, Mountain Dew by the liter and eat McDonald's and Taco Bell and KFC and like
Right.
I'm lucky, man. I have a good metabolism, so I can get away with it. But
Same, man. I have a pretty good one too. I would have to drink literally gallons of Mountain Dew per day to actually gain a lot of weight. But like as a human being, oh my. Let's get started.
man,
Man.
were you wondering what's in this coffee cup, dude?
I need to vote. Dude, you're not drinking coffee. You're not even fooling me. Like, make you your cup of coffee. I'm gonna drink some Mountain Dew in a coffee cup and make you think it's coffee.
Dude, it's a vodka water. Vodka Mountain Dew. Hold the vodka, dude. On the rocks, man.
On the rocks. I was gonna say on the rocks.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, like, as a human being, as a human being on this earth right now, having this experience, what do you think human beings desire most from life?
What do I think human beings in general desire most, or what do I think I desire most?
Like, I guess like I'm talking about like the entire Wally situation. Like, do we value things that come easy to us, or do we want a challenge that we can overcome without like getting too frustrated? Like,
Dude, that's a great question. Personally, I don't even know if I can answer that personally, man, because on the one end, it seems great in your head thinking like, man, if I never had to like really face anything difficult, if I never had to overcome anything, if everything was easy in life, like, man, that would just be awesome. Like, I could be happy. But at the same token, it makes me think about it brings me back to video games. Like, have you ever beaten a Grand Theft Auto game?
oh, of course, dude. Like, I've beaten so many games, man. Like that. Like, you get such a good feeling from that.
Right. But like, have you ever, so once you beat the game and you have millions of dollars and every gun and all, the car and you got the house, there's really like no enjoyment.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
don't enjoy the game anymore. It's like, well, okay, like I'm gonna play something else now because there ain't shit to do, I've got everything. And it makes you wonder, like, if that's how your real life was, is that how you would feel? You know? Like if you never really had like in Office Space, if you had $1 million, what would you do? Nothing, you know? Because you wouldn't have to, you know? Like I mean, obviously there are going to be people that are exceptions to that rule, or maybe that is the exception to the rule. Maybe maybe most people have things that they do want to do. But like personally, man, if I never had to work for anything and if I never had to like face anything difficult, like I feel like life would be boring. So I feel like maybe naturally humans want to face obstacles that they have to overcome. They may not know it, and they're always wishing life was easy, but I think if life was easy, would it be worth living? You know?
Right.
Like I feel like the things that we go through make us who we are, and I feel like everyone kind of wants to have to face something difficult in their life,
Right.
I think it kind of determines what kind of person you are.
Right. Like, imagine like being born a cheetah and never getting to run as fast as you could possibly run. Think about that.
Right.
Like, think about if you're born an animal that can run, the fastest land animal, but you were forced to walk your entire life.
Oh
Knowing
man. That'd be terrible. You would never know what you're capable of.
You would never know how far you could push yourself if you
Right.
actually had to. And knowing that you're gifted with this like carnation of this like incredible creature, and the entire time you can't even utilize it.
Dude, it may be pretty narcissistic, but I feel like, dude, I'm a cheetah that's just been walking my entire life. Like, dude,
Yes, dude.
man. No,
I
but
think a lot of people are cheetahs that have been walking their entire life.
right, dude. For sure. I never thought of that like that. I never thought of that at all. It's pretty mind blowing, man. Um, yeah, dude. I don't know.
It's like would the cheetah be happy just like having everything come easy to it if you just like eat plants all day, like, or would it want to run after those predators, like, because like it's got those natural instincts and drives, and it's just so good at it, and like maybe when it actually accomplishes that, it's way more gratifying than getting it, for nothing.
Right.
Because like
That makes sense, man. I feel like I feel like we want everything to be easy, but I feel like we don't. I don't know, man. How do you feel about that?
I like how you brought up the example of Grand Theft Auto, because like I remember when I got Grand Theft Auto 5 from Xbox One. I remember I was at my friend Justin's house and we were playing in his basement, and he found a way to get all like unlimited money online. So basically, we were online and we were balling out hard, man. We had helicopters and cars and guns, and after like the first 20 minutes was amazing. It was bliss,
Right.
and after
Right.
that, dude, I could not have been more bored.
Right.
I was like, dude,
Yes.
we did everything we could do. Like we shot all the people. We have all the guns in the world. After you shoot the same gun 10 times, it's like, all right, dude, I get it. But like,
Right.
if you had to work for that gun, I feel like you would appreciate it so much more, and you'd want to use it so much more often. Like, I don't know.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Um, it makes you wonder, like, people who are born, you know, to billionaires, like Bill Gates's children, like, what do you think, like, their outlook is on life, Because, I mean, realistically, they are so different than we are, and they don't even really know it, you know? Like, I'm not sure about, like, I don't know your entire life story, but, like, personally, man, like, I couldn't imagine being born, like, to a billionaire. What would you do, Like, everything, like, literally spoon-fed, you know?
Spoon fed your entire life.
Yeah. Would life be boring? I don't
I,
know.
I think it would. I think you'd get more bored. I think you just get used to your life how it is. I think no matter what your situation is,
Everything's relative kind of
you get
thing.
you get used to it. And if you can make your life
Right.
better, you appreciate it. And if you get to a point where your life really can't become better, you might get really bored fast.
Dude, maybe that's why lottery winners fuck it up all the time. You always hear those stories of, like, I won the lottery and now I'm broke. Like,
Right.
you know?
Because they want to find the next thing to buy because it gives them this sense of pleasure, and it's not even having the money, it's like spending it and like just balling out hard, and
Right.
they lose themselves in that. And I think that like today in society, like the reason why all this mental illness is on the rise is because people don't have to like. I mean, people struggle. Don't get me wrong. People struggle a lot. We don't.
Right.
You're not worrying about like the same stuff we worried about when we were younger in our evolution cycle.
Right.
And I think that really messes with people's heads more than like, it's not even consciously; it's unconsciously.
Right. Definitely, dude. Um, just like the impact that being around family has on you, in your mental frame of mind. Like I had said earlier, we're naturally social animals. Like, like we love not only the praise, but we kind of love, the insults from other people. We kind of like it. I mean, I do. I think it's funny personally, but people we're attention seekers. Nobody really wants to be alone, and people that do want to be alone, 99% people view them as weird, strange.
Right.
And I think that just says that, naturally we're a social creature. And I don't know, man. I kind of just lost my train of thought thinking about this Mountain Dew sitting right down next to my feet.
Dude, you gotta stop drinking this stuff, man. All
Dude, I
that
know it's rotting my brain, dude. I can't even like form coherent sentences or anything, dude.
it like gets in your brain synapses and it just like disrupts your flow of stuff.
And all I can think about is Mountain Dew, dude. My consciousness is just green right now, like Mountain
Right,
Dew.
dude. I can
Dude,
see your head like it's like illuminated green.
dude, my eyes, are they turning from blue to green? Like
Oh, dude, they've been green the entire podcast, man. I thought they were
this
naturally
guy,
green.
this guy.
But I don't know, man. I feel like throughout my life I've been like, it's weird because I consider myself an introvert, but I'm a very extroverted introvert. I'm good,
Right.
I'm good with being by myself, and like I'm happy with being by myself. But I also like I'd rather be with people I want to be with than rather be by myself. But if I'm with people I don't want to be with, sometimes I naturally unconsciously become introverted. It's weird.
I see what you're saying, man. You kind of just like close down and kind of remove yourself from it in a
And
way,
yeah,
subconsciously.
and it's not like even like if they're bad people. Like like, it's just certain people that I naturally like. There's like a part of me that comes out when I'm around people that I like to be around. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like I don't even realize it happens, but like I'll like see someone I really like, and a spark ignites in my brain. It's like I get jump started. You know what I mean? It's the
Right.
strangest thing, but I've
Dude,
always had
like
that throughout my life.
dude, like when I walk into work, it's like, oh shit, it's Nick, dude. What up, Nick?
Yeah,
You
what
know,
up, buddy?
get
Yeah,
over here, bro. Like, yeah, dude. No, for
it's
sure.
like
And then there, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
because I don't give it like I don't like I try like to I like every human being because I think every human being you can learn something from them, and we're all here on this planet, and we're all just trying to make the best of the situation. But I don't get that feeling from every human being. I'm not trying to say
Right.
people are worse or better than other people. I'm just saying it's just something I have to
Some
admit.
some people give off an like inherently negative vibe where you're kind of just like, well, you're no fun. Like, stay away. You know,
Right.
I don't need that.
Exactly, man.
Definitely, man. Definitely, dude. Um, no, but like even as children, you can see it. You know, like kids, mommy, mommy, look, watch me, watch me, watch me. You know, I was really bad at
Right.
that. I was
Right.
really bad at that. You know, I remember like I would play like Madden with my stepdad. You know, and I would crush him and I'd have to be like, mom, 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 I won, I won, I won. You know, and
Uh-huh.
because we seek as children, we seek approval from our parents, and I think that as we get older, it transitions into seeking approval from teachers and peers. And then the older and older you get, it becomes, seeking approval from either, your bosses. Some people seek approval from their bosses. Some people just don't really give a shit. But some people, seek approval from their peers. And so naturally, um, we do depend on other people, not only for obviously goods and services, but like for our mental frame of mind,
Right.
our mental well-being is really like when I was living in Washington, I had my girlfriend and I had her family, but for the most part, aside from a couple friends that I had, I was alone. Sat in my room, played video games alone. And I could talk to my family or whatever, but I just it's really kind of depressing when you're just alone. Like I can't imagine living out in the middle of Montana and being by yourself in a log cabin. Maybe that's why Ted Kaczynski bombed so many people, bombed so much. I don't know, man. Like maybe that's what drove him nuts, being
I
alone.
being alone. Like there's being alone and there's being
They're being
isolated from
alone.
everybody
Yeah.
around you. That is what would mess me up. I couldn't do that for. I like being alone for hours at a time sometimes, but dude, like after that, I need anything social.
I do too, man. Like I feel like sometimes you need times to decompress and detach, like
Right.
to collect your thoughts and, regroup your emotions or whatever and just kind of, recharge. Like there are times where being around a lot of people can just be overwhelming, man. Like have you ever been to any concerts or anything like that?
Oh yeah, dude. Like
It's
you get there and you're so full of energy, but after like you're around these people, you can just feel the energy bleeding from your
right, dude.
brain.
Like I went to a Kid Cudi concert in Seattle. That's kind of a
I
tongue
love
twister,
Kid Cudi.
dude. Tongue
I love
twister,
Kid
dude.
Cudi.
Kid Cudi concert, dude.
Kid Cudi
But
concert.
but no, I went with my girlfriend and then my buddy Daniel and his girlfriend and then our buddy Dottie and his girlfriend. And I don't really remember their names. That's why I'm saying their girlfriends. And all the female listeners out there, I'm not hating. I'm really bad with names. Um, but my girlfriend and I, like, after maybe an hour into the show, because we were up in like the general admission, like where it was hype, dude, and like people were just passing around joints everywhere. Like it was insane. It smelled amazing. I had actually quit smoking before the concert, so that was actually pretty tough to not like, because people are just offering you left and right. But anyways,
Right. I would imagine.
I had to like we both had to just kind of get out of there and stand in the back away from everybody, because it was just too much. Granted, that's completely different, than kind of what we're talking about. But I think it just alludes to the fact that like sometimes too much social interaction can be negative and your brain just kind of needs like rest, almost like a form of sleep where you're away, and you're kind of just maybe distracting yourself or shutting, but you're able to recharge and I don't know, and I get annoyed easily too. Like I can be around someone I really like, and if I'm around them for like 10 days in a row, I'm just, it's kind of to the
Oh,
point where like, man, I need to go to McDonald's and get away, you
dude,
know?
I'm the same way, man. I remember like I used to like bring friends up north with me when I was like really young. I remember like for some reason after like the fourth or fifth day, I would just naturally just like want like they were fine, but like I just wanted to be away from them. Like I just got to go
Right,
somewhere else. I got to be with other people. It's like, dude, you
right.
like you feel like they're like suffocating your like I don't want to say your joy, but they're suffocating your like life force. It's weird.
Right, dude. Yeah, like there are very few people that I can spend an infinite amount of time with and not really get annoyed. My girlfriend obviously being one of them. But like even my mom, man, like man, she wears me
Dude,
out, dude. I have
I,
to like, and she gets mad at me because I don't go visit her enough. But man, it can be overwhelming. She's a ton of energy and like it's just not really me, man. Like it might seem like it, but I mean, unless I'm not jacked up. If I'm jacked up on coffee, I'm good. But like, man, it's hard. So
yes,
there are
dude.
times where I'm like, Mom, I really don't want to go visit you right now. Like, you're just kind of too much. Obviously, I can't tell her that. She's gonna know now, but
Exactly. And now when she watches this, she's like, "Oh my god, Nick, I can't believe you said that about me," or whatever.
right,
She'll
right,
be in the typical mom voice.
right, man, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know, dude.
dude.
I'm out of coffee, dude.
I'm
Feels
like,
bad, man.
I'm running low too, man.
Feels bad, man.
It's a bad feeling. It's really a bad feeling.
It is, dude.
You
It's sad.
when you feel the caffeine like the effect leave you, it's a very like you long for the feeling again, but like you're just almost too tired to actually drink more. It's weird.
Right, dude. When like I think what caffeine shuts down the brain's receptor to what is it? What's the
Um,
chemical, man? I know you know it.
Adenosine,
I don't think so. I think it
not
starts with an
adenosine,
S. I think it starts with an S.
not serotonin.
Yeah, I think so.
Serotonin. It's a serotonin.
Serotonin. It shuts down the serotonin receptor, which makes you tired, right? The caffeine essentially blocks it, and that's why you feel awake when you
Or is
drink
it
caffeine.
is it melatonin? I don't know what it is to be honest. I have no idea.
I don't know. It might be. I don't know, man. Um, but essentially, that's what it does. Is it blocks the receptors in your brain for I think it's serotonin. But that's why you feel awake, and then eventually the caffeine fades off, and you get this rush of serotonin in your brain. And that's the crash. That's the crash. People always talk about the crash. The caffeine crash is real, man.
It's really real, dude.
It's real.
I don't even know if I couldn't drink caffeine again or like use caffeine in any form. I don't know how I would function over time, but it would be such a rough transition.
Right, dude. And that just like speaks, I think, to the fact that like as a society now, we're so heavily medicated, dude. Even in the sense of like caffeine, man. If you view caffeine as a drug, you know, think about it. Think about how many people can't function without their morning coffee. And if they don't have it, they're a different person. They can
Right.
still function, but they're fucking like, dude, like there's coffee cups I've seen that say, talk to me after I've finished my coffee or whatever it is.
Or like, don't talk to me until I drink this whole thing or whatever.
Right, and I think like where we are now, especially in medicine, where medicine has gone to, just shell out a pill, you know, just give them a Vicodin. Oh, you got anxiety? You get a Xanax.
Everybody gets a Xanax.
Everybody gets this, yeah, dude, and it's crazy, man, because how like we never had that thousands of years ago.
No.
And so what are our bodies going through? Because like we're literally hardwired, right? Our DNA is a code. It's got, it's essentially like a computer code, you know? And it's not like it didn't evolve on that. It didn't evolve, your body didn't evolve on Xanax.
No, it didn't.
Sorry, it didn't
It didn't.
happen. Your body's not supposed to have Xanax in it. You
I,
have
I,
anxiety, you should figure out why you have anxiety and try to get at the root causes of the problem. Because I've had anxiety, man. Like when I lived in Washington, man, and what part of that came from vitamin D deficiency or me just realizing that maybe I'm not living to my full potential or things like that, being away from my family. But it's like the answer isn't a pill. I think organically is healthier. You can't just shove some narcotic in your mouth and expect all of your problems to go away. Granted, there are people with sorts of pain that might need painkillers. Maybe the pain isn't bearable enough to live with. But I mean, you know do you want your doctor who has anxiety to be popping Xanaxes left and right? Like, not really.
I would be okay if he didn't do that, or she.
Right. Like, yeah, Nick, you're up for open heart surgery. This here's, Dr. Nick, and
Doctor Nick.
he just popped 10 Xannies before he walked in the door because he's shaking thinking about ripping open your chest. Have fun. By the way,
he's having
here's
a
some
mild
anesthesia.
existential crisis.
Yeah,
He's
dude.
having a mild existential crisis. He just
He's not
realized
sure if he should buy a Porsche or an Audi, man. So, nah. Nah.
he's a little shaky today. He's on shaky ground today.
Yeah, dude. No, but I think like caffeine, I think caffeine is a drug.
Right.
Definitely. I think that there was a Harvard study actually that said that caffeine is more addictive than cocaine.
I've heard that before. I've heard that.
Was it cocaine or was it hair? I think it was
I don't
cocaine.
know if it was cocaine or heroin, but I just know like it's a more mild effect, but we just love it so much because we know it's not
Right.
that harmful. It's weird.
And it's not that hurtful, but it's the dependency, right? Like same thing with like marijuana, dude. Like with the changes in the direction that marijuana has been going, becoming legalized in like practically every state, almost every state. Like not well, maybe not really almost every state, but so many states are legalizing it, whether recreational or medicinally. And there's research that says that marijuana changes the reward system in your brain.
It just
And
rewires it almost.
it makes sense, dude, because when I used to smoke, like that's like I'd be like, man, I'm hungry. Like I'm gonna go, like, I want to smoke and then I want to eat. I want to play video games. I want to smoke and then I want to play video games. I'm going to see a movie. I want to smoke and then I want to watch the movie. Like, I don't know. And so I wonder how many of us live additive free, you know? How many of us live organically? I don't. I love caffeine.
I
You
love caffeine. I love it,
I
man.
love dude, I fucking vape nonstop. Like
Right,
terrible.
right.
Terrible.
It's
But
like the same thing. It's just a stimulant. You know what I mean? It's just
right. But
you,
it's
you
it's go ahead, sorry.
it's just like you just crave it unconsciously because you were brought up with the idea that like you can drink this, it's okay. But if you
Right.
never were exposed to it, like if someone offered it to you, you'd be like, I don't know if I trust this.
Right, dude. And that's why, and it's funny because as a kid, like when other kids would tell me like, "Oh, my parents don't let me drink soda," I'd be like, "Fucking weirdo.
Like,
You've
dude, you're
never
about
had a Mountain Dew? Well, come over to my house because you're in for a treat." No, but
you're
like,
about to get crunk.
but it's funny how as a society we have like these norms, and I guess like we just kind of base our entire lives almost around these norms, and a lot of those norms stem from what we see on TV. A lot of culture isn't really culture anymore. Like a lot of it comes from Hollywood, a lot of and so I don't know, man.
Dude, I almost the weird we talked about earlier, like longing, like our like seeing the new generation not go outside as much.
Right.
I almost wonder if if like we took someone from that lived 1,000 years ago and showed them how we grew up, if they would be the same, if they'd feel the same way about us. Like, oh, you guys thought you lived the life of a human being. You didn't live close to what we got to live. And maybe,
Definitely.
would that be more enjoyable than how we grew up? Like maybe we got like a small taste of it, but we didn't get the full experience. Like, oh yeah, we went outside. We rode our bikes to the gas station to get something to eat. Like that's a small piece of what they got to experience. They were outside all the time. They like got to be in touch with nature, how it was meant to be, almost like in a weird way. That's how I think it was meant to be. Like you're traveling with what's on your back. You're not trying to accumulate stuff and like try to hoard all this wealth. And it's just like you're born here, you experience this beautiful life, and you die back into the earth how it's just how it's supposed to be. And
Right,
that's
man.
like my religion. Like I don't think you should like. That's why like I wouldn't consider myself a Buddhist, but like I read a lot of stuff that relates to Buddhism because I somewhat agree with the way they tell you to live your life. Like, live your life in a benevolent way, help other people, don't accumulate things because I mean like have enough for yourself, but like don't hoard wealth because like you're not a you're not an immortal being. You're not going to be here forever.
Right.
You know?
Right. You can't take your Xbox One to the grave with you, dude. Like,
Right.
so that's got to stay above the ground.
That's going to stay plugged in your room no matter
Right. That
what.
Lamborghini can't fit in a 6 foot deep hole. You know.
Right.
But I mean, I'm sure it could. Lamborghinis are like this tall, but you know what I'm saying.
Dude, I remember like sorry, I remember like last summer, dude. I went up north with like five of my best friends, and we went up to Charlevoix, and that week was the most euphoric week I've had in a long time because I was with the same people for a week and we did things together all the time and we were participating in like the love that you got to feel, man, was like this is what a human being is supposed to feel. Like you're supposed to live
Right.
your life with the same people that you love, like people that you trust, people that like they're here for you, they're going to protect you, they're like, and I just think we're missing out on that crucial part of this existence.
Dude, sort of like Native American culture, man. Definitely. I feel like you should read up on Native American culture, man. I feel like it seems like that like resounds with a lot of like what you've been speaking about. Just sort of living together tribally, you know what I'm saying? Everyone, there are people who like specialized in hunting, you have the hunters, and then you have like the gatherers, how life was, I mean, that's only hundreds of years ago, but for across the entire globe, thousands of years ago, we were all tribal at one point,
Right.
and yeah, man, I think that you should definitely look into that. I feel like you would love Native American culture for sure.
And there was I read reports at one point where like the Native Americans would take people in that came here from Europe, and the people would like they weren't really technically slaves or prisoners, but like they stayed with them, and then when they had the option to go back and live with their people, they wanted to stay with the Native Americans because they just got so like entrenched and just like they grew to love the way they lived because
Right, man.
they lived together and they lived for each other, not for themselves. And
Right.
that is something that a lot of human beings will never get to experience.
Right, man. I feel like that would give you a better sense of self-worth, if you know that like not only do you depend on other people, but other people depend on you, and makes you feel a part of a community, on a really, really micro level, because like we can say that's how it is now, where everyone depends on each other, for goods and services or whatever within the economy. But that's a completely different section of that, right? Like, I mean, we're talking like you're living with like maybe 100 people, you know,
Right.
maybe, and you guys are all eating the same communal food, like everyone knows each other, like I'm not, we're not from small towns.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, like small towns with populations of like 500, it makes you wonder what that's like, you
I
know?
wonder that a lot. I just feel like it's a complete different. It's like we're all humans, but like that human experience and this human experience are just you can't even compare them hardly. They're so alien to each other.
Definitely, dude. Definitely. Dude, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about, man?
I feel like we're starting to go a little over what I wanted to go. I feel like we're already like an hour into this, man. Hour and
We
eight.
are, dude.
This is insane.
Yeah, dude.
I think we talked about having like a half an hour introduction, but we
Right.
we talked about a lot this
Dude,
podcast.
the snowball effect, man. Like, I just don't want to stop talking to you, bro.
I don't either, man. I feel like there's more we could talk about, but we could end it soon if you wanted to.
Right. No, man. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I don't know. I don't really know what to talk about anymore. I'm kind of
Dude,
just like bullshitting now at this
dude,
point.
I've got some other stuff, man. Like, but I just feel like the thing that we're missing in society is the idea that we're working together and for each other, and we're the goal of this existence is to try to spread as much like joy and love as you can, and not to try to like be not try to just focus on yourself. And like I said,
Right.
sometimes you got to focus on yourself to help other people, but at the same time, the goal should always be to help other people. And I'm not saying like I'm not the person you should look at for that because I'm trying to be a better person in that regard, but like I'm just trying to figure my own life out. And I feel like once I get that figured out, it'll be a complete 180.
Right, man. And that like resonates with our political spectrum and what we have now. Essentially, we have this rise of democratic socialism, and we have this rise of like the right wing like libertarianism, Maybe not the rise that the libertarians want to see, but there's been a shift, Ron Paul um, was a very successful politician, and he's about as libertarian, maybe not as libertarian as they get, but he's pretty close, to like an ideal libertarian candidate. But it comes down to, do we want to structure society in a way that benefits the collective? And then if so, how do we do that? And what are the best ways to benefit the collective and at what expense to the individual? Or do we want to structure society that's really individual focused, and then the poor individuals who are born with nothing, to poor families or in bad, destitute places, like the middle of West Virginia in a trailer park, no offense to people in West Virginia in a trailer park, but like
Right.
they can't really compete with someone who was born on Wall Street,
Right.
like it's this age old question, man, that seems to not have an answer. But um, it seems as if the tide is turning in a way. And it seems as if democratic socialism, especially amongst our generation, has really had a resonating impact. And I think that we'll see that this next election cycle.
I
I think if the DNC didn't rob Bernie Sanders of his nomination, um, I think that the country would be a lot different right now, because I have no doubt in my mind that he would have beaten Trump.
I have no doubt in
No
my
doubt
mind.
in my mind.
He
Yeah.
would have beaten Trump for sure.
And that brings me personally, the first thing I think of is the South Park episode between the giant douche and the turd sandwich, man. Like,
That's exactly what I think of too, man. That's such a good way to put it. So
man, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, geniuses, dude. How they come up with that shit? No clue. I just imagine them both
zero
sitting
idea.
around with a magical bong at this conference table, like, dude, you ready? Yeah, man, let's get it. And then just taking bong rips and shooting ideas out, man. Like,
Dude, the ideas must just come out of the air and just like be siphoning into that bong and just like
right, dude.
they must just for some reason it might just like take the best aspects of like what they can make that show and just they just somehow they
For
get it.
sure,
Man.
dude.
They get it.
Because some of the shit they come up with, man, it's like, how do you think of that?
It's like
That's amazing. But I don't know, man. I think that we'll really see that in the future. We'll really see the rise of the left, and whether or not that is an economically feasible way of structuring a society. Because we've seen the failures of socialism, and a lot of people point to Venezuela, and it kind of pisses me off because
makes me mad too because it's just
Venezuela fucked themselves. Okay, I'm sorry, but 90% of your economy hinges on the price of oil.
yeah.
That's not something that you can just play around with, because we've seen how volatile the price of oil is, And
That's such a good point.
dude, 15 years ago when oil, I mean, do you remember when oil was like $130 a barrel?
Oh yes.
Dude, I mean, I think 2008 or 2007, when gas was like $4, $5 a gallon, depending on where you were in the country. Yeah, that's when Venezuela was so prosperous, man, because they have a shit ton of oil for how small of a country they are. And what happened to Venezuela, man, was they had all these expenses and all these things that they were buying, all these services they were providing, and then oil collapsed, and then their economy collapsed, and it just shows, like, when there isn't a free market to essentially regulate and each reach equilibrium, it shows what can happen, and Venezuela now is that answer, um but they fucked themselves, man. They could be. Look at Norway. Look at Scandinavia. They have tons of oil, and Norway's got the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, and they have 5 million people that live there. Like, I think that if we're going to do it in this country, in the United States, if we're going to try to structure our society in a socialist manner, I think that has to be very carefully thought out.
It does.
It has to be very, like, it's not something that you can just say, hey, we're going to be socialist now. I mean, in a way, we already are. Like, the U.S. military is a perfect example of a socialist government program. Like, at 18, you turn 18, you want a job, you can go to the military, because chances are they'll accept you. And then you have a job, you have benefits, you go to college, like, granted, most people, a lot of the roles that you're going to be taking, you might have to risk your life in, or be put in places where you're going to be fighting war. But it's a socialist program by definition, right? And
Absolutely.
it's funny because the Republicans love the military, but they hate socialism. And when you try to explain this, there's this huge disconnect where it's just like, no, it does not compute, dude. Like
The air code and the coding comes up like
yeah,
spazzing out.
yeah. They hear the
Just
word
dump water on
socialist.
the whiteboard.
Yeah, they hear the word socialist, and then they hear military, and they're like, no, our military stopped socialism. Our military is not socialist. Like, we stopped communism. Our military is not communist. Like, but that's what it is.
Totally, man, totally. I couldn't agree with you more.
And I think, economically speaking, man, I think we have to be very, very careful with how we do it, because the Great Recession was awful. And I mean,
Talking about 2008.
yeah. And if something were to happen like that again, and we have all these government expenses that we just can't pay for, what would happen to our country? Like, look at Venezuela. Could that happen to us, So we would have to very carefully and methodically make sure that we take all the necessary precautions to prevent something like that from happening, man, because I can't imagine, I mean, I don't know, but I can't imagine going to a grocery store and not even seeing bread on the shelves. Like, that would just be, dude, if I couldn't go fucking get bread for toast and eggs and bacon in the morning, like, man, I would be destroyed, dude. Like,
You'd
I
be
would
fine.
probably just go kill myself. Like, at that point, it's just over. Like, I can't have toast, dude. Like, what?
I can't have my cinnamon
Can't
toast.
have
Like,
toast?
no,
Spots' bread is out of business? What do you mean, dude?
I can't have a cup of milk. Like,
Right,
dude, like
right,
no coffee. Like,
right, dude.
I don't know, man. I feel like I often diss capitalism, but at the same time, it's a system that works.
Right, dude.
It
Um,
works 100%, and it doesn't work for everybody, and it's not perfect, and it like there's like a lot of Republicans that'll say it's the system and it's the only system. I don't really agree with that 100%. I think you can base it off capitalism, but you got to incorporate. You can't. It's like
okay.
the good and the bad and the bad and the good. You got to have the balance.
Let's look at it like this, man. So, like, personally, I think that as a society, we should provide healthcare free of charge to anyone under the age of 18. 18 is kind of arbitrary. That's just kind of, we let people join the military at 18, so that's kind of where I see the cutoff as being 18. But if we can't provide basic health services to the youth of our nation, what good are we as a nation? You know,
Right.
I think there's that quote. I don't know who it's from, but like you should judge a society based on how it treats the essentially worst members of society, and maybe
Right.
not
The
necessarily the
worst.
worst in this instance, but like the worst off exactly. Um, and I think, man, like that resonated with me, man. Like, if we can't, if there's a 5-year-old kid whose parents just so happen to not have health insurance, they're poor or whatever, and this kid has cancer, like this kid is dead, like the fact that we have GoFundMe's for kids with like Hodgkin's lymphoma, that's abhorrent, man. That's terrible. Like, that is so sad. The fact that like we would rather spend taxpayer dollars bombing children in the Middle East than giving healthcare to the children that are sick that live here. I think that really shows just where our priorities are. And I think that if we were able to teach, like I had said earlier, philosophy from a young age and teach morality and ethics, um, I think that that's something that just would not happen in society.
Right. Like maybe like K through 5 should be morals and ethics, and then incorporate more of that also in middle school. If we're gonna keep the public school system how it is right now, or if we could
Right.
change it, we'll do whatever we want to do. But
There's a
maybe,
lot of that, right? There's a lot that needs to be changed with the public school system. But if there
dude,
was one change we could make, and it would be teaching, philosophy from a young age, then
me personally, I think you just overhaul the entire system. Personally, I mean, I think it's the flawed system. I think it was good to produce factory workers. That's about it.
right. I think
I think kids leave high school and they're so lost because they don't know what they want to do, and they have the option to go to college or trade school or pursue other stuff, and it leaves kids like, I don't think we should tell kids what they have to do, but I think we just need to tell them what they can do. And we
right,
straightforward, like, hey, you don't have to do this, but this is an option. Come over and do this. We're looking for people, and I think
right.
we need to have more options like that for kids that they have something to do. But besides just, I mean, obviously the military, trades, and college are three things that are great to do in society. But I think there's just got to be more of an effort to like try to get these kids that are feeling lost into this stuff.
Right, man. Because like at the end of the day, that's the future. You know, and if your future is lost, then what does that mean for the future?
Right.
You know, um, yeah, man.
And I think we have to look at society and realize that like a lot of jobs are being outsourced, but not just outsourcing. Automation is the number one thing we need to be on the lookout for right now, because automation will be the thing that takes away a lot of the jobs in the society. And if we don't have a way to like funnel down some resources to make sure people at the bottom aren't suffering to the point where they can't innovate, I
Right.
think we need to make sure they can do that, at least to a degree. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not saying pay them $100,000 a year, but I'm saying make sure they have enough money to go to the grocery store and their family's fed. And
Right, man. So that makes me think of Jeff Bezos, man. So it makes me wonder as a society what we how we view the wealthy. And when I mean wealthy, I mean the insanely wealthy, because Mr. Bezos could buy half the countries in the world, not all of them, but he could buy, half of them. And it makes you wonder, man, like, what's moral? If we teach morality from a young age, what conclusion do we come to? Do we find that taking this money from him is immoral, or do we find that the fact that he has so much immoral in a way, you know? And it also makes me think of this. Um, People like Jeff Bezos, like for example, Rockefeller, right, 100 years ago,
Yes.
he earned his money not through government subsidies and tax breaks, but he earned his money because he provided a good and a service. Not saying Jeff Bezos doesn't provide a good and a service, because Amazon is amazing. But he, for the most part, all of his money was earned because people were paying him for the services he was providing, right? And now you have companies cooperating with government essentially through lobbying, and they're getting this money from the government that essentially comes out of our pockets, right? Like, for example, Walmart doesn't have to pay their workers a living wage because their workers can get food stamps and assistance from the government. And not only that, but then like Walmart gets so many tax breaks, and it's just like, man, like, so they pay their people nothing because they know that their people will work for X amount when they can get Y amount from the government to sustain themselves. And then Walmart turns around and then they get money, like they get money from the government, you know? It's like,
From both sides,
how?
they're getting
Right.
they're getting like such a push towards like just being prosperous and having all this money. Like it's almost unfair.
Right, man. But that's what I was saying. Like, should a person's success at lobbying the government be a form of like, should that be a career, you know, essentially? Like, should our government even be giving people money? Should our government even be giving corporations money, Like, that's like, because at the end of the day, how much of Jeff Bezos's money comes from us buying shit off of Amazon, and how much of it comes from the government, we can look that up.
We
you
can
know
we can
the
definitely
three
we'll get the
the
exact.
$3 billion that he just got for the plant he's making in New York or whatever, the distribution center in New York or whatever, like,
Yeah.
that's taxpayer dollars. Jeff Bezos has 100 billion or more, 130 billion, or right, some shit like that. What does he need 3 billion of us to only make his business more profitable? Why does he need that money from us? Why like, that's what it comes down to, is like, it used to be, you built your business and you compete against other people, and now now you just get government handouts and shut down competition through regulations, like, like, that's like the reason, like, why there's not a lot of competition in medicine, in pharmaceuticals, because you got to get your shit approved through the FDA. And guess who just happens to own the FDA? Shocker, you know?
Shocker.
And so, like, and that just comes down to, like, do we want to give the government more power to legislate, you know, in our everyday life, or do we want to pursue the freedom of the individual to choose for themselves? And it's just a really hard question to answer, man.
It's really hard. I think I just think in a society where you look at if you can imagine a society where everything is as close to utopia as possible, people have as much free choice as they possibly can. And I think the individual should be able to choose how they live their life, what they put in their body, as long as the risk of hurting somebody else is negligible.
Right, right. That
I,
comes down to, so like externalities. So like, me personally, I own a car because I have to drive to work and I have to drive to school,
yeah,
right? And one of the externalities of me owning a car is the pollution on the earth. You know, like, it's not your fault that I have a car and that I drive it around, And it could be a fuel friendly car, it could be a gas guzzler, but at the end of the day, it's my choice what I buy. But it has impacts on other people, and I think that that's part of the reason why our environment is in the state that it's in, is because a lot of the decisions are made only thinking about the individual and not, the collective.
like I just think like we don't realize how crucial of a time period that we're actually living in right now in human existence.
definitely.
We've never had this much technological innovation. We've never had all these countries be this like set up and structured, and we have all this trading going on. Like countries aren't really collapsing, and we're not really killing. I mean, obviously people get killed in countries all the time. But I mean, I'm just saying it's not like widespread where like you wake up every morning and a country got wiped off the map because they got invaded. It's like
Right.
we have our borders basically already placed out,
Right.
except for Russia invading Crimea and stuff like that.
Right.
Basic stuff like that. I mean, like that happens, but like, you're not because if Russia went and invaded France tomorrow, we'd start the next world war probably.
Right. Oh, definitely. And honestly, I mean, I think because the Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, like I think that's like the only reason that there wasn't a bigger global outcry over that.
Yes.
And now you never hear about that anymore.
Nope.
Never. And
I
I have a friend who's from, his family's from the Ukraine. They migrated here, they live in Washington, and they hate Putin, man, because he essentially just went over there and stole Crimea, you know? Like I feel like that's not talked about enough, man, because imagine if like the United States did that, the fucking outcry there would be if Trump was like, guess what, you boys like Mexico?
You
And
guys
then
like
just like,
Mexico?
right, and then just like went down to like Mexico City and was fucking stuck an American flag, and it was like, yeah, that's right, I don't need a fucking wall because this is mine now. Like that would not fly, dude. And I think that the fact that like the world just let Putin do that and didn't like, yeah, they put sanctions on him, but he doesn't give a fuck,
Who cares? I guess yeah, he knows that nothing's gonna
He
happen.
don't care because guess what? It's 5 years down the road and no one gives a shit
And
anymore.
it's like now it's like, well, it's a part of Russia now. It's like I guess we got to live with it.
It was in the news cycle for like 2 weeks, and then and now Americans, Crimea, what is that,
What
dude?
is
Like,
that, dude?
what
Like,
country is that in? Is that Uzbekistan? I have no fucking clue. What's
yes.
Uzbekistan?
What
Like,
is that even? Yeah, that's
is
such a
that a word? Is that
that's
a
such a big
language?
word.
What
I don't have
the
to know
fuck?
that word. That word doesn't mean
Right.
anything. It's just random letters put together. I'm just gonna
No.
drink my Diet Coke and eat my Big Mac and
Right, dude.
I don't know, man. I just think it's I don't know, dude. I think it's just a sign of the times. I think our generation is so unique in that we're trying to get involved with all this stuff.
Right.
I think there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pushback against our government right now, trying to like we're going to take control of this country one day, no matter what. And I just think they're trying to dig their nails in the dirt, trying to hold on as long as possible. But the most beautiful thing about life is that no matter what happens, nothing lasts forever.
Right.
You can
Right.
you're going to be a dictator for how long? 60 years? You're gonna fall. Your people are going to see that you're not a god.
You're gonna die, or you're gonna die, whichever
You're gonna,
happens first.
you'll die of a heart attack. You're gonna die of a stroke. You're gonna get shot.
Definitely be assassinated, dude, just like good old JFK.
Just like JFK.
Yeah.
Just like we did him. We did him so dirty.
Dude, the shooter in the grassy knoll, man.
That grassy knoll, man. That is such a that's a rabbit hole right there, man.
Yeah. But dude, I think you're right. I think that we don't really realize how important the decisions that we make now are going to have at this day and age. I feel like our decisions now will have more of an impact for the future than maybe they've ever had, aside from maybe just this past 100 years, post-industrial revolution, like the very beginnings of factories. Like maybe we should have been thinking about it then, but we didn't know the effects that those things would have. Now we do, and now is the time to make the change for the future, because if we don't, we're not going to have a planet that's going to be habitable for very long.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but the knowledge that I have about space, there's not really anywhere for us to go.
There's hardly anywhere that
We
can
can
survive.
we can barely live on Earth. Like there's places that are inhabitable here, and this is fucking where we live, dude. Like
Yeah.
if going to a different planet, dude, even the ones that are in our solar system, like Mars, like have you seen pictures of Mars? Like, dude, I don't want to fucking live on Mars.
Dude,
Like,
I think I'd rather be dead than live on Mars. To be honest with you,
dude, honestly, like
I think
the
I'd rather.
amount of technology that there would have to exist just for you to be able to eat and function, like would be insane, man.
Right. I know,
And
like Elon
well,
Musk wants to send people to Mars. He's like, yeah, if we go there, basically your entire life's gonna be labor. You're just gonna be working, trying to survive. Like,
right. And that's what and that's funny because that like maybe we would like it because that's how life was thousands of years ago, you know? It would just be different form, you know, instead of, you know, farming out in grass, you know, in the plains and, you know, middle of the United States, you'd be farming on rocks in Mars, you know, like, and you'd have a bubble, like a giant fucking tent over you just so you can survive in the atmosphere, you know?
Right.
Like, man, um, but dude, another thing, we might not even be able to get to Mars because of all the junk, literal junk around the Earth.
You've seen the picture of like all the debris that's
Yes,
around. Yeah,
it's
I've seen the picture too.
disgusting, dude.
Dude, it looks like my room after like I had a night of gaming and I just threw
Dude, like I just played PUBG for 15 hours straight. Like the pizza boxes and the Mountain Dew. Like, yeah, it looks like a tornado just went through my room.
Yeah, dude, it's like NASA just played like Fortnite all night and they just like, oh crap, dude, look at all
Right,
these bolts and screws we gotta clean up now.
right, dude. No shit. Man, dude, that hits close to home, man. I just had to clean my room the other day because I didn't, you know, it's -20. I didn't go anywhere. My room was a pigsty, dude.
Yeah.
You know, I sat in here watching TV, looking outside, thinking about how grateful I am that I'm not outside. You know, like, fuck, if I go out there, I'm probably dead in a half hour. You know, like, fuck, dude, it's that cold. Like,
Right, bro.
man,
Dude, some of those animals out there, they are really having a hard time. I can only imagine. What
dude,
are they? How do they even survive?
dude, imagine being a deer. Like, what the fuck?
Dude,
My eyes are frozen. I can't even open my eyes.
right,
Why
dude.
is it so cold? Man, I actually read that like a dozen people or 18 people or something like that have died in the Midwest due to the cold.
I read that today.
It's insane. Like a UPS, is it UPS? A UPS worker died. Did you hear about that? Maybe it
I
was
did not. I
FedEx.
did not hear about that.
Yeah, man, he died in I want to say one of their warehouses because of how cold it was or some shit, man.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. The polar vortex is real, man. The polar vortex is real, and it's funny because for a long time we labeled climate change as global warming, right? It's gonna get warmer, ice is gonna melt, whatever. And that has happened. There has been a general increase in temperatures, right? Like each summer has been hotter than the last, but it's global climate change. It's not global warming. And
Right.
what that means is that every season is going to be more drastic. Summers are going to be hotter and winters are going to be colder. And I don't know about you, man, but I cannot remember a single day that was this cold when I was a kid 10 years ago, you
Right.
know?
Right. Right.
And
Right.
you look up temperature records and it wasn't, you know, we can prove it because we recorded it, you know, it's history, you know, it's there. and and it's funny because all the climate change deniers, man, they'll be like, have you been outside? It's -30. What do you mean
Yeah,
global
dude. I saw
warming?
Trump tweeted something about it, and I'm like, dude, do you not have people like scientists that you can talk to? They can like just
Do you,
describe to you in layman's terms what this actually how this occurs.
dude, like, do you like, it's like this general ignorance, like they don't even know what they're talking about, but they're so like convicted, you know, they just feel this sense of just, I'm right, climate change is wrong, you know.
Right.
And I think that and that's in itself an example of how sometimes we like to be blissfully ignorant, and maybe those kinds of people, whether they're attempting to be blissfully ignorant purposefully or maybe it's subconscious thing, but like they're afraid of the consequences of realizing that it's real and it's happening and it's something that they have to deal with,
Yeah.
and it's something that they can't just say is false, you know. Like, for example, like my parents, I've had this debate with them a lot about climate change, and my stepdad especially does not believe in it. And it's like, man, like the evidence is there. It's at your, you could Google it, you know, and you could have an answer. You could have 100 answers from 100 different people who all have their PhDs telling you, hey, it's real and it's happening and something has to be done. And then you can read one Fox News article from one person who may or may not have a biased opinion, and they could be like, hey, no, fossil fuels are the shit, climate change is not real,
Let's
fuck out
start
of here,
fracking. Start
fuck out of here with
fracking.
that bullshit, yo.
Right, dude.
Get Tesla, Get out of here. We don't need
That's
more
what,
Teslas. We need more Fords. We need more Raptors, you know? We need more
yeah.
fucking F-350 super diesel crew cab extended fucking trucks.
We
Like,
need to breed more dinosaurs, and we need to let their bodies decay and rot, and we need to extract all the oil we can from them.
yo, Hawaii needs to turn into Jurassic Park, and then we need to bury them after they die and make dude. I like
We
where
could
your
have
head's at,
unlimited oil, man. We could just
dude.
literally clone these dinosaurs and wait for their bodies to decompose, and we'll get all the oil we need.
Dude, easily, man. We're there.
We'll have all the oil in the world at our fingertips.
Dude, fuck a podcast. We need to start doing that shit, man.
Dude, let's just go right now. Let's just go. Let's just go find some like dinosaur remains, and we'll just clone this stuff. We'll just get some genetics, man. We'll be rich.
Dude, I saw it in a movie. How hard can it be?
How hard can it be? They had like a machine, and they put in a little vial, and then a dinosaur popped out.
Right, dude.
I'm sure I could do that.
Just like Michael Jackson's children's, man. Is that too soon? Like, yo.
No, it's not too soon. Right on time.
In his children's, dude. You like what am I like? Well, I need more coffee, man. I can't even fucking function, dude.
That's what I'm
Too
saying.
dependent. I'm dude dependent, man. Too dependent on the caffeine.
I'm way too dependent, man.
Yeah, man.
Like,
What
I get put in the next gear, man. Coffee just like
it wakes you up.
yeah, it wakes you up, dude. But I just feel like I operate on a different dimension when I'm on coffee versus when I'm on when I'm
Right,
not,
dude.
when I'm not stimulated.
I've never done cocaine, but if I had to try to imagine what doing cocaine is like, it would have to be drinking way too much coffee.
Yes, that's
That's how
imagine.
I would imagine. Like you like make like 5 pots of like super strong fucking dark Colombian roast, and you're just like fucking yeah, let's get it, dude. Like that's like what doing that would be like to me, you know.
That's what I imagine.
That's how I imagine it in my head.
Right. Like your brain's firing on all cylinders, and you're just like you're taking in all the stimulus, and you're just like ready to go. Your ego is inflating inside your head, and
Not only did you drink 5 pots of coffee, but you also took a dozen Adderall, and you're just fucking ready to get it on, man. Like
yes, dude, you're just ready to get it on, man. You got that like artificial methamphetamine, and which is what Adderall is. It's so stupid, man.
essentially, dude. Essentially.
It works in the same mechanism that Adderall does. I mean, I'm not saying it's good for you because neither one of them is good for you, but
Right.
I don't know.
Meth is definitely not good for you.
Meth is I would never advise anybody under any
Ever.
ever.
I've seen people who have done meth, and I know people who take Adderall, and I can say for certain Adderall is better.
Adderall is way better.
Maybe marginally in the brain. I don't really know the neuroscience behind what happens there, but
the physical effects have to be better.
yes, because when you do you don't like you on meth, like dude.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Living in Phoenix, there's a lot of tweakers, and
I've heard Phoenix is bad, dude. I've always heard that. I know people that live there, and they said they just a lot of people.
It's bad, dude. Mesa, Arizona, which is like right next to Phoenix. Like I don't know if it's considered like a part of Phoenix or not, but like its nickname is Metha.
Oh,
like, imagine like Mike Tyson saying Mesa, dude. Like Metha, Arizona, like like dude, like. But dude, that's his nickname, man. Because like every like bus stop that you look at, there's a meth head chilling. Like you go to like the grocery store and there's like a meth head like either working there or shopping. Like they're everywhere, dude. Like they're like a horde. Like you just see them everywhere. Like, dude, look at the tweakers. Like and there's
like it's probably that question. Like, how do you know they're tweakers? Like what defines like their
what gives it away?
Like they're just like spazzing out, like just
so scabs for one. They have a lot of scabs on their arms from picking at themselves, right? Itching nonstop, whatever. You can tell, man. And they call them tweakers because like they tweak, dude. Like, have you ever like South Park tweak? Yeah, man. It's essentially like they have different tweaks. They're not like coffee tweaking.
They're not like
they have tweaks, man. Like they like itch themselves, I guess, is like the biggest giveaway. But they're emaciated for the most part. They're extremely skinny. Their faces are just sunken in, man. Like they look like the Olsen twins like 10 years ago. Like like they're just dude, and they're scary, man. Like meth heads are scary. Like I'm not a very burly dude. Like I'm probably the polar opposite of like a big burly dude. Like maybe to you they may not be scary. Some meth heads though can be huge,
giant.
Like imagine giving a horse cocaine and then pissing it off. not going to be a pleasant experience, dude. That's not
Dude,
going to be a horse that you're going to want to be around.
yeah,
And
that's a horse you don't want to ride.
I used to take the public transit system in Phoenix, which is if their public transit system is amazing, dude. The light rail that they have there is awesome. Like the buses like are awesome. But the people that ride them are interesting. And as a 13-year-old who moving from Michigan to Phoenix and then taking a public bus every day to high school, it's frightening, man. Like maybe my perceptions are just jaded, because that's like a prepubescent or adolescent, view of them. But dude, like they're scary, man. Like tweakers are fucking nuts, dude. They're fucking nuts, man.
Right, man. Like you just learned at a very young age, and you got it ingrained inside of you, and like now you just know one when you see one. You know.
Yeah, dude, I can tell instantly, man. Like it's kind of creepy. But yeah, man, like I don't know, man, and that just, that speaks to like the fact that as a society we're just drugged so heavily. And even if we're not drugged, like maybe social media and television and video games are a form of drugs in the same way. Like I haven't read any literature on it, but I almost would guarantee that video games can have a similar effect on your brain that drugs do, in the sense that it rewires your brain and it's addictive. Like I don't know about you, dude, but like I get addicted to video games. Like World of Warcraft was my life.
Dude,
Like
I get it.
high school, dude. World of Warcraft, dude. Like that's dude sitting there with my hand on the keyboard and my hand on the mouse, dude. Like
You get
the
you get invested, you get engrossed, and before you know it, man, your entire life is trying to make this character everything it can be.
the worst part about it, dude. I miss playing World of Warcraft sometimes, and I know how bad it was for me, dude. As like for my mental well being and even my physical well being,
Right.
I miss it, dude, because this shit was so fun. You know,
I
it's
I
got. I guarantee, man, if they did studies on that of like the brain of an addict versus the brain of like a video game addict, like I guarantee that they would be similar. Maybe like the drug addicts would be more rotten, more rotted. I don't know what neural.
like a more like exaggerated version of it, but like still
Right.
working on the same like
Same
neural
signs.
pathways and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, man.
I get 100% see that, dude. I know what it's like when you're really addicted to a video game. Like you literally like you
It's
can
all you think about.
you feel your brain working differently.
Definitely, dude. And like just like a drug addict rewards themselves with their drug of choice, I reward myself with my game of choice, whatever it is at the time,
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, yeah, I'm just playing a video game, but like it's harmful to your mental well-being because you have things in your life that you are so easy to neglect when you're playing video games. Like one of my biggest things was hygiene in high school, man. Like if I didn't have like I would shower for school, obviously brush my teeth or whatever, but
Right.
like spring break, I don't even know if I left my room, dude. Like it was bad, man. And it's just like, man, like it's something that we don't like take seriously, especially that I don't even take seriously. Like there are people who do take it seriously, like the parents against video games or whatever, the people that talk about it in the news, but like I don't know, I think it's something that really needs to be studied more in depth because that's definitely having negative impacts on our brains for sure.
It definitely is, man. And it's like video games get more and more immersive, and like more and more, the components are gonna get way more addicting than they already are, and that's gonna lead to way more problems.
Right, man.
All these kids are doing nowadays when they hang out is like, I mean, like I don't blame them because I probably would have done the same thing if I grew up in their time. But like, let's get on Fortnite, let's play this, let's play Call of Duty. It's like that's all they want to do, man.
Dude, that's all I want to do, man.
All I want
Fuck.
to do about most days is like screw playing with a ball, screw playing with like even board games. Like board games are fun, but like it's like dude, I mean like most nights.
It's not as stimulating, man. Like we've become so accustomed to immediate satisfaction, you know? Like you don't have the answer to a question, well, guess what? Google does, and you can have that answer immediately, you
right
know?
there, dude.
Like you play like Monopoly, dude. I used to love playing Monopoly. Now, that fucking sounds like torture.
It
Sitting there
does,
for
dude.
2 hours fucking playing this board game, like fuck, man. Like I don't
Going
know.
around the same squares, same places over time, it just
Right, dude.
hates you.
Right, dude. That's why like Settlers of Catan is so dope because it's different every game.
Yeah, you
That's
organize, you rearrange the map. You're not playing on the same board.
right,
That
dude.
space of it, that space of their last game, and now this is just so you predict how the game's gonna go.
Right. Definitely, dude. I don't know, man. No.
But yeah, dude, I was reading this thing the other day, man. It really fascinated me. One of my favorite philosophers is named Duncan Trussell, right?
Okay.
He was comparing things in your life that you know you have to kill, or things in your life that you know are negative for you that should not
Okay.
be in your life. He compared that to a vampire, and he said what vampires really are in like folklore and like throughout all the stories. They're not people. They're things in your life that you need to remove from your life. And how do you kill a vampire?
I don't know, man. Like you shove a silver cross through its heart or some shit. Like I
You
don't
either
know.
stab it in the heart or you shine it with light. The the light represents truth. Truth represents being honest with yourself, and you know that you're inviting this vampire into your life. It's not like it's coming in your life and making your life a living hell by itself. You're letting it come in. You're letting it take control of you. You're letting it be this negative, soul-sucking thing that's trying to suck the essence of your life away from you.
Right. This parasite that just attaches onto your body and slowly drains your organic being.
Right. And it's almost like that's kind of like what drugs are, what we were talking about, man. Because you're inviting this demon to come live inside of you. And the only way you're going to ever get rid of that demon is if you're honest with yourself, or you basically just stab it and just quit doing it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to kill it where like the problem starts, or you have to just be honest with yourself. And
Right,
I think
man.
that was a really good comparison because I think that's really what a vampire is supposed to represent in your life.
That makes sense, man. Like that kind of resounds with me personally because like I used to smoke a shit ton of weed, like an unhealthy amount. And finally one day, like I just had this realization, like it's not really doing anything positive for my life, you know? It's helping me avoid problems that I may not want to actually deal with. And it's costing me a lot of money. Like a
Right.
fucking ton of money. And I just quit, dude. Like I just quit smoking. Like overnight, like it was this decision that I just made where it was just like boom, like I shined the light on it, like you were saying, man. I shined this light on it and was just done with it, and I've been happier since. I haven't had anxiety, which is weird because I used to smoke to get rid of anxiety. Um, but and there are times where I do have it, and like logically deconstructing what it is and like trying to like stop it, that's its own vampire. Like that's something that, I need to work on is like dealing with my anxiety. But yeah, man, that's what was his name? Duncan Trussell?
Duncan Trussell, man, he
I'm
is
gonna have
a
to look him
wizard.
up. I'm gonna have to look him up, man. That's
He's one of Joe's best friends.
is he?
He's a comedian. He's like educated philosopher. Him and Joe are like best buddies, dude.
Really?
They used to live together, but like Duncan's he's such a good human being, man. He's got the best outlook on life,
Dude,
dude.
I'm gonna have to look into this guy.
Dude, he had a pod. His mom died of terminal cancer when like I think it was 2 years ago, man. And the last week of her life, they did a podcast together, and it is the most emotional, heartbreaking thing because like he knows this is probably the last week he's ever gonna have with his mom, and like the amount of like what they talked about and like how like it was such a blissful podcast, but like I cried throughout it, man, because there were times where like it was just like so sad because you realize like what this podcast actually was.
Yeah, man, I don't know if if I can listen to that, dude. Like, it might be too sad for me. No, I'll have to look into him, man, though.
He's
Definitely.
dude. He's like I don't know, man. I just feel like he doesn't give himself enough credit for what the things that he thinks about and the way that he looks at life because like, he's very like humble, but like he's probably one of the best philosophers I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah, man. I'm surprised I haven't heard of him, dude. Especially if he's been on the Joe Rogan show before.
Like at least, yeah, probably like 10 times at least.
I'm surprised I've never come across any of those episodes or anything, man. That's crazy.
You might know him if you see him.
Probably, maybe.
Yeah, he's got a funny way of talking, but
Yeah.
he's great. He's probably my top five favorite human beings on this earth that I've ever like got to listen to.
Right. Wow, that's awesome, dude. I'm definitely gonna have to look at him now.
You should, man, you should.
Has he written any books or anything?
He's written, I think one, maybe two books. I think I don't know how long they are, but like, yeah, he's definitely written a book.
I'll have to look into him, man. That sounds. I've been looking for a new philosopher to dive down into the rabbit hole, and I might have to check this dude out.
You should, man. He's fantastic. He reiterates like a lot of other philosophers. Like he's like I wouldn't call him like an amazing philosopher. I just think he's like good at interpreting other people's work and like making it sound like in a way that's a little bit different. I guess you know what I mean. Like making it more
Making it
connected.
his own, right, or making it more generally accessible to the average person.
Yeah, that's what I would say he's really doing.
Deconstructing like the philosophical aspect of it and like making it readily available to people who may not necessarily understand the content at first glance, kind of thing.
Exactly. That's the best way I could put it right there. That's the best way I could put it. And
Kind of
plus,
like a philosophy ELI 5, dude.
yes, dude. Dude, I read too many of those, man. I
Dude,
get
I,
hooked on those.
dude, I am 5, so like I can't understand shit unless it's an ELI 5.
Dude, I need him to like explain it to me like I'm 3, man. Sometimes I feel like 5 is like
Right, dude.
it's way too complex.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Black hole singularity. I lost you. What does
I
singularity mean?
All right. Go from the beginning again. We're gonna restart this and explain it to me in the simplest terms. Only use words that are 4 letters or shorter.
Dude, the only 4 letter words I know are bad words, dude.
Literally, dude. All the bad words are literally just like 5 letters or less. There's literally, I
Right,
mean, like, that's not true, but
right. Like motherfucker, dude. Like,
like douchebag. But you know what I mean?
yeah, that's not a bad word, dude. Come on. What are you,
Yeah,
12?
yeah, dude. I'm only 5.
Dude, I forgot, man. No, you're
He's
3.
playing.
You're 3,
I'm only 3, dude.
dude. Dude, we've been talking for an hour and 45 minutes.
This went on way longer, man, than I ever anticipated.
Right. What time is it, man?
Bro, it's almost midnight.
Holy shit.
This is insane.
Damn, dude. Dude, you want to play some chess or something? And
We should play some chess.
yeah. All right, dude. I'm gonna hit stop. I'm gonna hit stop recording.
I'm gonna hit stop.